Hello, welcome to Citizens for Global Solutions in Minnesota. I'm Katja, the president of the organization. Citizens for Global Solutions in Minnesota is a nonprofit organization based in the state of Minnesota in the United States. Every month, we host one of our online projects. Today, we are hosting the Human Rights Forum, where we will discuss information communication technology in the humanitarian and development sector. Our events are free and open to anyone. If you want to learn more about the CGS Minnesota work, please visit our website, www.globalsolutionsmn.org, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook pages. Our Facebook page is Global Solutions MN. Our Twitter is CGS_MN. We do have a channel on YouTube, CGS-MN, and our new created Instagram page, CGS.Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, to speak with us tonight, we are honored to host our guest speaker, Duaa Shaalan. Duaa Shaalan is a Fulbright Humphrey Fellow Scholar at the University of Minnesota. Originally from Jordan, Ms. Shaalan has a bachelor degree in computer engineering, a master's degree in enterprise system engineer. She is experienced in international development and humanitarian organizations, adept at deciphering user behavior and optimizing digital platforms for user engagement. Today, Ms. Duaa Shaalan will discuss this very important, relevant, and super current topic, information communication technology in the humanitarian and development sector. Duaa, thank you so very much. And you are welcome to our organization, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Katia, for this introduction. It's a privilege to be with you today and to talk about the information communication technology for development and to go throughout my experience in the past 11 years where I dedicated them in the humanitarian and development sector. So we can start presenting the slides if you like.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I think the very first question that comes up to our minds right now, as the webinar is focused on ICT4D, which is Information Communication Technology for Development. Now, first of all, if I want to look at the whole world right now with a kind of a comprehensive lens, we're able to see that right now we are in a period of time where there are tremendous disasters and catastrophes. Some of them are human-made and some of them are naturally made. From increasing climate disaster, earthquakes, wars, to the rise of the global poverty and the persistent digital divide, there are a lot of populations are left behind offline without being connected, which often will lead to wrong directions and also to marginalization. ICT, since also we're in the technology, in the area of technology, ICT for development can be used to rectify the aftermath of these disasters and to help people to survive, to access services, and to strengthen their resilience. The way information and communication technology for development can be translated or explained, it's a practice of using technology in order to achieve development and humanitarian outcomes and outputs throughout the different interventions that are being established and implemented. ICT4D is the abbreviation or the acronym of Information Communication Technology. It encompasses and relies on a wide range of technologies and tools that facilitate the creation, storage, retrieval, and the dissemination of information. As right now, also, we're in a period of time, information is very valuable and lots of millions of dollars can be paid in order to have valuable information that are concrete and transparent. Now, the way it is interpreted, ICT4D is interpreted throughout the perception of humanitarian aid workers and developer practitioners can be different from the way it's being interpreted by beneficiaries. So for humanitarian aid workers and developer practitioners, ICT4D, it can be interpreted as the effective and responsible usage of technology and data to advance pragmatic quality, impact, and reach out to vulnerable and marginalized people. Whereas from the perspective of beneficiaries, it's their ability to get connected, to get information, to reach the services, to kind of be part of the community and society. Moving on to the next slide, where we'll be talking about why is ICT4D vital in the humanitarian and development work. First, I want to give like kind of an explanation. What is the difference between a humanitarian world or domain and the development domain? Each one or each approach serves two distinct and complementary objectives. So the humanitarian work focuses on responding to emergency situations in the immediate aftermath of a crisis. On the other hand, the development approach or effort takes a longer term approach that seeks to address the social and the economical aspects of the crisis, especially as they become more protracted. Thanks to the ICT, because it can be thought of as a mean to bridge the divide and integrate those two approaches in order to make sure that the community is able to stand up again and individuals are being reached out regardless of their background, their ethnicity, their gender. So ICT platforms can bring how it can, let me say now, the direct advantages of the ICT for the development partners and the humanitarian partners. It can bring the development partners together to collect data about the intervention using the online data collection platforms. It can also establish open communication channels with beneficiaries, which means that they are heard and we're able to identify them, especially those who are marginalized and at risk. Also, the data can be extremely crucial as it can help team members to track the progress of implementation, to know if their intervention is being successful, where are the pitfalls, where are the risks, and also to come up with mitigation measures. Thus, the program intervention can be, measured if it was touching base with the needs of the society and the community or not. Also, as a manager in the development and the humanitarian world, the data can also be analyzed to extract valuable insights to those managers. So which it can help them to understand more what is the context and to redirect resources based on the situation that can be also changing throughout any kind of a disaster or a catastrophe. Now, when I talk about the rapid response, so the humanitarian emergency response, ICT can be thought of as a very fundamental aspect in order to respond to this emergency because it enables real-time communication and coordination amongst the humanitarian actors, where like every organization can take different part in responding to the needs of the beneficiaries. Therefore, we can ensure that the basic needs in a network is being delivered properly to those people, vulnerable people. Keeping the vulnerable people connected through the information dissemination. So since the ICT includes platforms like social media, SMS, mobile apps, which are also fundamental means used to disseminate critical information to affected population. These critical information can be safety tips, emergency alerts, and accessible service locations, especially when we're talking about an area under war or like internally displaced people moving from a certain city to another city or an area where there are earthquakes. Needs assessment. When a network of humanitarian organizations are providing services to beneficiaries, ICT is very essential. So for example, we can rely on the geographical information system in that case, because it can serve as a preliminary factor or element to help organization assess the needs, identify the location of those vulnerable people, and prioritize aid distribution in different work conditions. Next, we will kind of connect how ICT can contribute to the various UN SDGs, but due to the limitation of time, and I wanted also to focus on certain aspects based on my professional experience, I'll talk about how ICT 4D can be connected to education, healthcare, economic empowerment, and inclusion. For education, ICT proved to facilitate a lot of advantages throughout the distance learning. And as you've seen throughout the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, students, different stages, different sectors regarding whether they were urban areas, rural areas, continued their educational process because of the online distance learning, which provide access to educational resources and opportunities for remote communities. Healthcare. Healthcare, it's a whole chapter of, let me say, emerging development, especially when we talk about the telemedicine and the mobile health applications. It helped people, especially underserved areas, to have access to health services and also can get connected to doctors in different areas, whether they are in the same country, city, or even internationally, and get the diagnosis processes that they need. It enabled remote also consultation, diagnosis, and treatments. The economic empowerment. The economic empowerment through the ICT tools, for example, the mobile banking and the digital marketplaces, help entrepreneurs and enable financial inclusion throughout the online banking tools and throughout, the remote also way of connecting to incubators and freelancers all over the world. So if I want to go through, let me say, the experience and the project that I had the chance to work in, and to talk more about how ICT helped a lot in achieving the intended outcomes of those programs and projects. So my journey in the realm of digital humanities and social computing, it began in 2013, back in my country, Jordan. It was the time when the Syrian crisis had already unfolded, with the year 2011 marking its onset. By 2012, almost 140,000 Syrian refugees flee all the way from Syria to Jordan. They were desperately seeking for safety from the disaster and the civil war that is happening in their homeland. In 2012, I joined the American organization International Rescue Committee, and I had the privilege to serve as a data analyst for a child protection program. The aim of this program was to unify unaccompanied and separated children with their caregivers. So those children traveled all the way from Syria to Jordan. They crossed borders, some of them by themselves. The age ranges were too different. So imagine the risks that they faced. My role was very pivotal because it was focused on managing all aspects of data and technology, utilizing to achieve the project's primary goal to unify those children with their caregivers. At the beginning of this stage, I faced lots of challenges when I'm talking about the usage of ICT and the availability of data. The first thing that was astonishing for me is that the organization, the international organization, and the social workers were relying on a very pure manual process of collecting data. This means that the data that was collected was prone to high error rates. Documents of children were lost sometimes, and even the let me say, the case management forms. And sometimes they were sabotaged, which was posing risks to data security and confidentiality. So these issues hindered the effective gathering, the secure storage, and the comprehensive record keeping of the children's cases during the process of reuniting them with their parents, which in some cases, it kind of hampered the process of tracing where are the parents of this child, how to refer this child to the agencies that can provide the services that the child is seeking for education, for instance, education, medical. Also, yeah, like in addition to this, there was a high level of fragmentation among the humanitarian organization, which resulted in social workers were operating independently because there was no system a centralized system to connect IRC with UNHCR, with UNICEF, with NRC, and the rest of the organization. It made it difficult to refer children to the appropriate organization based on their needs. Consequently, the children missed out accessing intersectorial services offered by the network of organization, impeding the seamless delivery of those humanitarian aids. So the lack of this connection also was related to the governmental agencies. And here I'm talking about very critical documents that can be released, for example, residency, permits of residency, if a new child is being born for that family, how to, get an identification card for the child and so on. So the lack of those documents also kind of was very crucial and very critical for the whole, staying or residency of those vulnerable refugees. So as we face these challenges, let me say my focus of my work was to collaborate with the different development and humanitarian workers and organization in order to enhance and come up with an innovative system to better serve those refugees. This system is the Child Protection Information Management System, which is a tool used by majorly, but not only, the child protection agencies and organizations to manage information related to child protection cases, which is in our case, the unification of separated and unaccompanied children with their caregivers. So there was a kind of a, let me say, significant improvement in the work, but of course it took time for us to see how let me say, the intervention of the ICT in the whole process of work and kind of electronizing and digitalizing the whole process was too different. So first thing, since all of the forms that used to be kind of entered and filled by the social workers were electronized or digitalized throughout the CPIMS, this helped the organization to track and manage information about each child, including their case history, their interventions, and the outcomes and what services were delivered to that child, which helped in documenting the progress of each case and ensure that the appropriate services are also provided in a kind of a follow-up manner. Data analysis, since big data sets were collected and were stored, so this, let me say, kind of mitigated a lot or rectified a lot the issue of loss of data and to have it stored in a confidential manner. Also, the data were analyzed to identify trends and patterns and to understand where are the gaps in the services. It was very useful in informing policy development and also helping program managers to better plan for the next phases of the program and to allocate resources, especially to address the needs of children at risk. Monitoring and evaluation, of course, like it's a very fundamental aspect of any project or program. So kind of tracking the effectiveness of the outcomes, activities, and outputs that are being delivered, and to assess the impact of those interventions on children and family was also another advantage. It also included the reporting, which can be used for accountability purposes to demonstrate the organization activities. Information sharing, it helped a lot the kind of interconnectivity between organizations. So information was shared among authorized users, social workers, case managers, professionals, and even, kind of other organizations that can offer various services. Risk assessment, as I mentioned earlier, identifying risk at the short term, long term became much more easier. So children who, for instance, were kind of heightened at risk of abuse, neglect, or other forms of harm were able to be identified in a much faster rate. This helped prioritize intervention and also allocated resources to kind of support and save those children. So all in all, the CPIMS played a very crucial role to strengthen the child protection system by improving the data management, the data analysis, the decision making, and also to contribute to better outcomes for vulnerable children and families. So this is one of the, let me say, programs or projects where ICT played a crucial role to improve the way this program was delivered. If we can now move to another scenario, how ICT helped in the implementation of the project, and also how it helped beneficiary to be better served and better included in their society. So can we go to the next slide, Katia? The name of this project is the Washington Group Question or Questionnaire. It was a research project that was implemented in 3 different countries, Jordan, Philippines, and Congo. The aim of this research project is to foster a more inclusive global community for people with disabilities. The first stage of this project was to conduct an initial assessment to understand how services are being delivered to people with disability, their accessibility rates, the census, the accuracy of the census data about people with disability. Here in my case, I'm talking about Jordan because I was the project manager in Jordan. So after we've done the initial assessment together with my team, it became evident that there were significant shortcomings in the data collection method concerning the existence or the kind of the spread of people with disability. This, of course, encompassed their demographic information, accessibility to service, educational achievement, their employment rate, and also, all in all, how they are included in their society. So the first thing, when we see that there's a huge gap in this data, this means the system that the organization are relying on and the governmental parties, there are a lot of weaknesses in those systems. So the crucial step that we worked hard to improve is to improve and to leverage the database management system within the public, private, and the governmental entities. First thing we've done is to unify a platform that's accessible by all of those entities and to ensure that this platform is not only accessible by those entities, but also by beneficiaries, citizens, people with disability, which allow them to access a vital array of services that are needed, for example, healthcare, employment opportunities, education, legislative support. So by designing those systems and making them operate in a centralized hub, we promoted the collaboration among all of the community stakeholders, and we ensured the creation of inclusive environment. Our work did not stop at that point because lots of other organizations, their role was to provide kind of accessibility tools and other, kind of devices and technologies for people with disability to help them in their day-to-day work. So for example, they distributed different, let me say, screen readers, voice recognition software, and magnification tools, and alternative input devices to enable people with visual, auditory, physical, or cognitive impairment to access the digital content and to interact with the technology in an effective way. Online education and learning. We also try to liaise with the educational entity and to ensure that ICT is being embedded within the whole, let me say, educational models and platforms. So ICT offered opportunities for inclusive education by providing accessible online learning platforms, digital textbooks, multimedia resources. A very important aspect that should be discussed, was discussed actually, as let me say, at a national level, was the social inclusion and community engagement. Because providing all of those means and tactics for people with disability by itself cannot solve the issue of the exclusion of people with disability. So there should be kind of awareness to the whole community how to work together in order to create a much more positively promoting environment for people with disability. So by the usage of ICT, we worked on the social inclusion and the community for people with disability through, for example, the social media platforms, online forums, virtual support networks. These platforms provided opportunities to network, to socialize, and to access information and resources, thus reducing the feeling of isolation and promoting a sense of belonging for people with disability within their communities. The accessibility to public services. Given right now, as you can see, there are many apps and technologies which ease the way for us to get access to, when is the train coming, the bus, and getting those Uber drives. So also part of the, let me say, advocacy was to use ICT to enhance the accessibility to public services. For example, how to access healthcare services by doing, for instance, virtual appointments, how to access transportation by again relying on those mobile apps that can, kind of give an indication which buses and in which areas can, accommodate an accessibility for people with disability. Again, if I want to emphasize more about the advocacy and awareness, ICT was a kind of a fundamental platform which served as a powerful tool to advocate and to raise awareness about the rights of people with disability, which was shocking for me that also some of the humanitarian aid workers were not aware of the rights of people with disability and how to identify people with disability. What are the accessibility issues and how to implement inclusive practices? So throughout the social media campaigns, the online petitions, digital storytelling initiatives that amplify the voices of people with disability and promote positive representation, we were able to raise awareness about those topics. If I want to move also, so right now, as you've seen, this kind of initiative was touching base with too many sustainable development goals. Moving now to the digital entrepreneurship, particularly for women. So if you can go to the next slide. So this project was implemented in coordination with UN Women. And the primary goal of this project was to empower female entrepreneurs in transitioning into the digital entrepreneurship domain, which enabled them to harness their business acumen, broaden their professional connection, and boost their profits. And at the end of the day, we all know that in order to develop the economic situation of a country, both men and women should work in coordination, especially in a country like Jordan, where the rate of unemployment is very high. So let me say, in the latest couple of years, there were more focus to improve the entrepreneurship domain. So embracing the digital entrepreneurship represents a potent avenue for enhancing the women's participation in the digital economy, especially, as I said, in Jordan, which necessitated a comprehensive approach. ICT in this project played a very instrumental role to establish and nurture digital entrepreneurship. This was done throughout different means. Number one, we relied on online platforms and marketplaces. Through ICT, it enabled the creation of online platforms and marketplaces where those female entrepreneurs showcase of their product and services. Those products can be very simple products, for instance, making candles in the house, doing some kind of embroideries, and it can be much more, let me say, sophisticated. Some of them were making certain softwares in order like to have a nanny to stay with the babies, babysitter, for a certain period of time. So it just ranged from simple product to very sophisticated product. And also they were introduced in ways how they also were able to access e-commerce platforms, freelancing websites in order to advertise for their products. Second thing, the e-learning and the skill development. So ICT facilitated the e-learning and skill development opportunities for those women to improve their digital literacy and technology skill in order to empower them to acquire the new knowledge and capabilities, which is essential for running their successful digital businesses. Because if the idea is very creative, but still the engine to move this business is the technology in that case. So making sure that they're acquiring the needed knowledge to keep the wheel driving was a very important aspect. As we know, women, sometimes it's hard for working moms, especially to leave their houses. And when I'm talking about areas like rural areas and moving to run the businesses in the capital of countries and other cities. So remote ICT enabled the remote working and collaboration through the communication and project management tools, for instance, video conferencing, such as also, for example, Zoom, which is right now we're having our webinar through it. So this enabled the women entrepreneurs to collaborate with team members, partners, clients, regardless where they're in location, in a very flexible and efficient. Finance is a very important factor when we talk about any kind of business, even if it's a digital entrepreneur business. So ICT offers a financial management software, accounting tools, e-commerce solution that help in streamlining the business operation and transaction, which help those ladies to improve the efficiency and the accuracy when it comes to the financial management. Mobile application and digital services. Also, ICT enabled the development of mobile application digital services, which catered specific market niches and customer segments. So women entrepreneurs were able to create innovative solutions and different applications, online services that address the unique needs and challenges. And also it helped them in gaining a competitive edge in the digital marketplace. Funding was another factor that we tackled in this project. So how to access funding and crowdfunding platform. ICT also platforms provided access to those to various funding opportunities throughout the crowdfunding platforms, online investment networks, where entrepreneurs can raise the capital with their for their ventures. Also, by the leveraging the digital channels, entrepreneurs were able to present their ideas, connect to investors, grab the attention of different, let me say, donors, which were also a very important mean to finance and fuel the business growth. At the end of the day, those ladies are not, let me say, weren't experts in business. So still they needed the support of networks and communities, especially those who can take the role of mentors. So also ICT provided a mean by the formulation of support networks, online communities, and mentorship programs, which connected those ladies with different peers, mentors, industry experts, in social media groups, forums, and virtual events. At the end of the day, after, let me say, 2 years of running this project, there were like a lot of measures that were done between the baseline and the end line, like the beginning of the program and the end of the program. Lots of women, they didn't even have a business. At the end of the day, the businesses were running and even they were able to cooperate together and to expand their business. Moving now to the critical part, or let me say a part which is we're all familiar with. So any topic, to the next slide, any topic in the world or any aspect in the world, there are gaps and there are challenges. So in the humanitarian and development field, ICT plays, as I said, a very crucial role to enhance efficiency, effectiveness, and impact. But there are still very important gaps and challenges that persist, and we need to work on rectifying them. The first one is the access and connectivity. So many regions, especially when I talk about rural areas or areas which are under the conflict, affected by the conflict, they're usually prone and susceptible to inadequate internet connectivity and infrastructure. This can limit the reach of the ICT solution and prevents the delivery of critical services to people who are in need to get access to those services and to know what's happening. Second thing, when I talk about technology and ICT, which is the basis for all of this change, digital literacy is a very important aspect. So despite the proliferation of the IC tools and how advanced they are, especially right now with the AI, there's still a significant digital literacy gap in many communities. So people may lack skills to effectively use the technology for communication, for education, and even to access essential services. And sometimes it's not only referred to certain age groups or certain nationalities. No, sometimes when we're using a certain, let me say, mobile application or a certain technology, then all of a sudden a new technology can come, which can hinder us to go with the flow and to stay involved. So digital literacy is an essential part to keep it on the radar. Interoperability, the lack of interoperability among different ICT systems and platforms. And this is a very important part where INGOs, public, private, and governmental entities should work on. So the more those systems are decentralized, this will hamper the data sharing, collaboration among those parties. This leads sometimes to the duplication of the effort, inefficiency of information, lack of communication channels, which at the end of the day will affect the quality of services that are being delivered to citizens, refugees, vulnerable and marginalized. Data security and privacy, technology, it's a kind of, let me say, a very intertwined factor with technology, the data security and privacy. So with the increasing usage of ICT, when we talk about the data collection, storage, analysis, we need to ensure that data security and privacy is a very important and crucial aspect to be well, let me say, organized and implemented. Many organizations, they struggle to implement robust security measures, which at the end of the day leave sensitive information vulnerable to breaches and to misuse. Sustainability, from the name of Sustainable Development Goals. So those ICT tools are used in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So the ICT solution in the humanitarian and development context often face this sustainability challenge, including the funding constraints, maintenance issues, and reliance on external support, especially if a third party is, kind of developing the system for an organization. This can hinder the long-term impact and the scalability of projects. So always project managers should take into consideration when they're using and designing a system or any kind of technology, a way how to keep to sustain it and to make sure that it will continue existing after even the phasing out of the program. Localization and cultural sensitivity, which is sometimes it's a lot, this factor is being forgotten. ICT solutions are often designed without considering the local context, the cultural norms of the communities they serve. This means that there will be more resistance and the low adoption rates among the targeted population when these kind of technology is not respecting their culture. Now, when I talk about, again, I always emphasize on monitoring and evaluation as it's an important factor to see how the intervention that we're doing for people is serving their needs or not, successful or not. So there is a need for better tools and methodologies throughout the ICT to monitor and evaluate the impact of the humanitarian and development work. Until this year, and after I served throughout 8 IOs, UN agencies, there is a significant weakness in terms of ICT usage to improve and leverage the level of monitoring and evaluation. So measuring outcomes and assessing effectiveness can be challenging. That's why it's very important to have a systematic way of collecting the data, analyzing it, and linking it with the program's outcomes, and to ensure that the program is in the program activities are being implemented in the correct pathway. So given those challenges, we now move to the next slide, which will tackle how solution to those problems. So to improve the ICT for development in the humanitarian and the development field, it involves a multifaceted approach that combines technological innovation, capacity building, and collaboration between all parties. Here, I'm not only emphasizing on humanitarian development organization, but rather private, public, and the development agencies. So the first strategy is to conduct thorough needs assessment within the communities and organizations where ICT4D initiatives will be implemented to understand the local context because the situation, for instance, in Jordan will be too different from the situation in Brazil. The needs in a community here are so different from the need of a community in another area. So understanding the local context, the challenges, and the existing infrastructure about technology is very important to tailor the solution in a very realistic way. If I want to use a certain level of technology in a developing country such as Jordan, it should be also very different to a technology that I want to use in Minneapolis, because we know that there is a very huge digital divide between this place and this place in terms of the network infrastructure, technological advancement, and so on. Second point, when designing those systems, and when I talk about systems also, a system is part of the ICT, information communication technology solution. We need to prioritize the user. So those systems should be designed in a very user-centric approach. That means it should meet the need and the preferences of the users, the intended users. Sometimes the users are the humanitarian aid worker who can directly, interact with those systems. Sometimes it's the beneficiary who he or she is benefiting from the service, such as the health mobile application. So designing it by putting this user at the center of the approach is very important. And this can be, kind of very linked to the developers of the programs. So involving local communities in the design and the development of these processes will foster, of course, more ownership and sustainability. Capacity building, again, it's not only for the end users or the beneficiary who are using those technology, but also for the humanitarian and development practitioners. So investing in building the technical skills and the digital literacy of local stakeholders, including the community members, aid workers, governmental officials, is very essential. This can be done throughout the provision of training, mentorship programs to empower them how to effectively use ICT tools and platforms in their daily basis work and their duties. Partneringship, which as I just emphasized, fostering a partnership between government, INGOs, local agencies, private sectors, academic institutions is very important, as it will help in leveraging the resources, the expertise, and expanding the network. This can allow for collaboration with local organizations and other grassroots initiatives to ensure the relevancy and the sustainability of the program that is being implemented, of course, throughout the usage of ICT. Now, promoting the use of open data standards and interoperable technology to facilitate data sharing, it's a huge advantage of ICT, which can also integrate across different sectors and organizations, but of course, making sure that data privacy security measures are in place to protect sensitive information of individuals. Scalability and sustainability, designing the ICT for the intervention with a keeping while keeping the scalability and the sustainability in mind. Because as I just said in the previous slide, in a lot of occasions, when we're designing for a program and we do our system and technology, we just focus that those technology will be used throughout this intervention. But no, the idea is to identify opportunity to replicate the success initiative in other contexts and to explore innovative functional models to ensure long-term viability. So through the adaptation of those strategies and fostering this kind of collaborative, inclusive approach, the stakeholders can harness the usage and the power of ICT to drive a positive change and to improve the outcomes and the outputs of the delivered programs, whether it's humanitarian program or development programs. So this was, let me say, the different aspects that I'd like to cover today in the webinar. And of course, I'm open right now to any question, and I hope that the information was clear. Katya, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Dua. Wonderful, your presentation, so enlightening. I invite the attendees to send their questions into the chat. And I wanted to start by asking you, So you talk about a gap. So I wanted to ask you your opinion, or if you have the vision of the current situation. So is there, you see, there is still a big gap between the use of the ICT by men in comparison to women, um, and what does it take for that gap be closed? And do you still see, even if there is a gap, I know your answer, but did you see in the past few years an improvement of the use of the ICT by women, even if there is a
Yeah.
gap?
Thank you, Katya, for the question. So basically, there is a gap. There's a huge gap when I'm talking about how men, use this ICT and how also they can be involved in trainings that focus on digital literacy compared to women. And I think part of it, the humanitarian organization were more responsible about, not the communities or the societies. Because whenever they announced about a training, whether it's done in an online fashion or in person, about, for instance, how to improve digital literacy, to improve businesses for the digital entrepreneurship. The very first part of the project, when they announced it, men were only invited because it was a kind of a very cultural, sensitive thing that women and men to come together, and that men are usually, let me say, the leaders in the business world in Jordan, especially when it comes to entrepreneur projects. So linking this idea that the entrepreneurship world is dominated by men also led to this idea that even if you want to use ICT and even if you want to use, kind of enter the digital entrepreneurship, it should also be dominated by men. And part of it is that the INGO kind of tagged it. So this was the role of UN Women when it came into this stage, and it kind of, those people were very aware that no, digital entrepreneurship is not only for men. A woman, it can be too clear and obvious that there are too many constraints for a woman. I'm speaking about Jordan to move, from a city to another city, especially if she has different, kind of responsibility, a mom and so on. But basically, ICT can help her to become an entrepreneur. We can, kind of impede those constraints by simply she can do her business from her house. She can just get connected. She can use social media to post about her products. So this kind of message that is being delivered throughout the UN Women, and also the UN Women got connected with local broadcasting channels to kind of change this stereotype that business is always dominated by men, entrepreneurs are men are better in technology than women. Let me say the low prevalence of women presence in the whole STEM field. So it kind of needs lots of awareness and advocacy that yes, a woman can be a computer scientist. She can be an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
It's nice to see the women working like in technology, directly in technology, because we always still always associate women with maybe content creator, more with their artistic part. And it's so good to hear that our participation in the technology and everything around tech is growing, because in Brazil, unfortunately, we are not so much yet. And I think since we are just child, people never, say to us that we can do this, that we are good in math and in calculus. And yes, so congratulations. It's really
Very
good.
much. Thank you
It's
very
not a
much. Yes.
question, it's just a commentary.
Yes. No problem, but I do agree with you because it needs a kind of a shift and it needs a lot of advocacy because even if technology, and right now technology, let me say, it's a kind of a catalyst in any domain. So if I'll talk about a group of women that I worked with in this digital entrepreneurship project, there were a group of women living in a certain city in Jordan. They were working as plumbers. Now, having a female work as a plumber in Jordan, it's a huge, kind of astonishing thing. And the idea that how those women can, find their clients was so hard. So they were like one of the people that they needed this technology, social media, and the support of network throughout the, let me say, the virtual groups to disseminate this idea and to spread it out that there are a group of plumbers who are females. They are skilled. They have those certificates in plumbing. This is their experience. This is what they can do. Let me say, if we go back to the classical and very traditional way, when you talk about without technology, it will be so hard for those women to be known. It will be so hard for them to, to spread information about their way of working. Where is their company? So through the use of technology, it helped them to make the idea that seeing a woman as a plumber is something, it's becoming, let me say, acceptable. So afterward, in the upcoming years, you can see more group of women who are like they're working also in other aspects like technicians, car technicians, and in other areas of, let me say, domains that are mostly dominated by men. So a mind of a brain will get used to it when the first time we see it. And right now we're extremely exposed to data, to information, and to technology. So this means that the technology and social media networking can help in, including for the better inclusion of women.
More women better, like it's
Yeah.
just you follow the flow, like young girls will see that it's possible, so yes.
Also, if I want to touch base about the education, so in lots of areas, girls are not being allowed to go to schools just because of, the fear, especially when we're talking about areas that are affected by war. So in those certain cultures, it's better it's better for a girl to stay at home and to drop from school just to protect her from any kind of, harassment, sexual violence that she can get exposed to. So again, throughout the ICT, where right now a girl can still have access to educational resources, to do her classes, but still be, kind of a safe place. It's doable right now, which means that a girl can continue her education. And again, right now, we're connecting it with the Sustainable Development Goal, better education, and we're including more people.
Although and it's fantastic that these might exist and open a door or a window even for the girls um, who live in authoritarian countries that don't allow them to go out and study,
Mm,
like all of us else that had the privilege to go out and study. Um, but it still takes some steps that you explained, having access sometimes to the technology, the hardware in the house, which not always is possible
mm,
because of multiple factors like poverty or inaccessibility because they are in rural areas. Also having access to internet because we know sometimes we don't have access to internet. So it looks as to there is a big gap to be closed, and unfortunately I feel, and I don't know if you feel the same, that the women are still the largest group of victims of the underserved population, just because their uh, personal conditions of simply being a woman, which is
mhm.
sounds ridiculous when you speak aloud.
Exactly. Yeah, they can be susceptible to more marginalization just because of the gender. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming here to the United States and with all this wealth of knowledge that you bring with you, I could spend the entire day with you and it still is not enough for me. Uh, so what do you think, changed in your point of view, in the knowledges and the way of seeing things,
Mm,
and how do you go back home with hope, with more knowledge, with more ideas, with more partners? What can
mm.
you
Yeah.
what you can share?
So yeah, so this whole experience was a kind of a transformative experience for me at all aspects, if I want to talk about personal, professional, and even academic. Now, what I loved about this experience in the US, the networking. Here is so easy to get connected, to network with people, and
Mm,
people to appreciate what you have, what you've done, let me say. So, for instance, you just say, like, my experience was in that field, in technology, in kind of the ICT world, and how it can be helpful in the social sciences world. It was very compelling to different organizations. And people are keen to hear. So, something that I would like when I get back to Jordan to kind of replicate is how to, help people to network together even if they are from different domains. So, for instance, I met with journalists, I met with public policy analysts, with economists, with people from different finance, from different domains. But still, most of the people that I met with, everyone, have something unique, but still they give you the chance to talk and for them to understand what you're doing, to kind of find a synergy between your expertise, their expertise, and to come up with
mm,
something useful, whether it's for the company, whether it's for the community, whether even it's for, for the person's sake. So this is something that I really like, the networking. Second thing, getting out of, the traditions and the comfort zone. But like sometimes when I started thinking, when I thought about it before coming here, it was a kind of a shift that the whole system is too different and I'm having a very kind of a routine life in my home country, work, my family, and these things, and my gen. But right now, shifting to a new life, getting out of this comfort zone at the age of 34, like I'm getting back to the student dorm and then getting back to school and doing this kind of a blended program, which kind of integrates professional, let me say, skills with the academic skills. Putting yourself in a point that I want to get out of the comfort zone and to see how other cultures, other people operate, how they work, how they embrace the challenges and kind of, undergo those challenges and move smoothly in their life. So it helped me a lot to face those challenges and to move forward. And the third thing is that how technology is a fundamental, let me say, component in a person's life in the US. So people rely a lot here on, paying their invoices, grocery bills, um, transportation, everything. So everything is kind of the whole life is inside this mobile. Now in Jordan, there is a high level also of like this kind of usage of internet, but not all services are digitalized. So ensuring that services are being digitalized and let me say governmental services so in a way or another they can be interlinked with the private with education, it's something really like impressive. So like for instance the warning messages that you get, how the Hennepin County operates and the level of technology, the huge data sets that they're analyzing, and I've got to know this through different seminars that we attended through this fellowship. It's really impressive that part of the development that is undergoing is to keep technology as a preliminary factor. So these are like different aspects that I would like to take kind of takeaways out of this fellowship.
yeah. So you are a woman from the Middle East and you're coming from Jordan. Can you give us some idea of how you think it is the information technology uh, going in Jordan, Israel, and of course we know there is a war going, and I don't, if people don't have food, I don't expect them to have internet. But I wanted to hear from you also in Syria, that is just north of Jordan. They have been in over a decade of a war. In Iraq and Iran, we know that the women have serious restraints in all types of um, of areas, especially in education and how they go out. I wanted to for us to give us some overview and your own experience and what you see that sometimes we don't.
Okay. So if I wanna go to the very, let me say, important topic, I'll put it like as the top of the list for me. Like I'm Jordanian Palestinian. So what's happening in my home country, particularly the Holocaust that is happening in Gaza, I think technology was a very crucial aspect to cover what's happening there. The atrocities, the terrorism, the killing, the bombardments, the slaughtering of children and women that is happening there in that land. So without technology, how will those kind of barbaric crimes will be spread to the other part of the world to know what's happening? This is number one. Number two, people right now, in a way or another, throughout the satellite and throughout the different coverage, they can, unfortunately, Israel is using it in a very kind of a, sorry to say this word, nasty and a criminal way, because they're using AI advanced tools and weapons to identify where are the citizens and the, internally displaced people within this Gaza Strip and start to bomb them and shell them. But on the other hand, if, let me say, technology will be used in a normal way or in a positive way, those people and other parties can use technology in order to look for, shelters and safe places for those people to be displaced to. In this war, particularly technology played a very important factor to keep Gazans connected to the world and to not allow Israel to slaughter them in isolation. So here the technology, let me say, helped. When I talk about the other areas and how the INGOs and the humanitarian aid workers can, in a way or another, utilize their intervention to help those people, whether in Gaza, in Syria, and in different countries, in Jordan. So when I talk about the data collection and the importance of data, especially when the abundance of data and how we can make use of it, when we allow data to be collected throughout online data collection means, mobile application, and also throughout this kind of algorithms that can do this user behavioral analysis, then donors and governments will be able to understand where are the needs and how we can, understand that there are basic needs that are not being covered in that area. There are risks in that area. Those people are marginalized more than that, more than those groups of people. So how to distribute the resources in a better means to ensure that everyone is able to receive those services. And again, keeping the word connected, because the most horrible thing that a person can feel, whether it's from a disaster or a war, is to feel like they are abandoned. So getting them connected, providing them with services, even helping them to find a safe place to get out of that place, which is like under risks, is also another factor where technology can be used.
Yes. Dua, you are wonderful, wonderful professional. Congratulations for everything that you are doing, and thank you for everything that you are doing. We need more women like you to help our sisters out there in need to improve their conditions. So on behalf of CGS Minnesota, I want to thank you all for attending this event. If you want to watch again, the recording of this discussion can be found on our website and our YouTube channel. If you want to contact us, our email is cgsmn.contact@gmail.com. Again, Duaa, was an honor and a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you so very much. We have a lot of people from the audience and thanking you, thank you, and appreciating you so very much. I hope that
Thank you very
our
much.
paths cross again, and I know they will very soon. Thank you again, and thank you all. I hope to see you soon next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katia. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank
See you.
you.
Bye.